Can school libraries increase achievement to socially deprived post-primary schools? When we think of libraries, we normally think of access to books. But really, we should be thinking about access to information. The way we interact with information has changed. Libraries are no longer silent spaces just for reading. They're vibrant, alive spaces where information is exchanged through a variety of mediums. Would having a space like this in post-primary schools in socially disadvantaged areas help students achieve higher results and therefore more access to third-level placements? First, we should look at where Ireland stands with the provision of school libraries in comparison to other countries. At the moment, there are 30 publicly funded school libraries with a professionally qualified librarian running them in the most disadvantaged areas in the country. According to Dr. Siobhan O'Brien, Ireland has no mandate to provide school libraries in post-primary school whatsoever. In other countries in Europe, such as Croatia, France, and the Czech Republic, it is underpinned by law to provide school libraries. If we look at the funding and provision for school libraries in the province of Ontario in Canada, they have one teacher librarian per every 763 elementary school pupils and one teacher librarian per every 909 secondary school pupils. So that means not only are they providing library services for secondary school students, but also for primary school students. Oldenburg proposed the third space in 1989, the first space being home, the second being work. The traditional third space would have been the pub, market, or other community spaces where people gather and can be themselves. But as the digital age grew and nuclear families became the norm, the pub has become less of a third space. Oldenburg posits that the position was taken over by libraries because libraries serve as a free gathering space where the exchange of information can take place. There is no judgment in the third space. One can be judged at home by their family and at work by their superiors. But the third space is free from judgment. Students in disadvantaged areas have worse outcomes than those in more affluent areas. Putnam's theory of social capital states that moral obligations and norms, social values, and networks play a key role in success. It could be that students in these areas have a different social capital than those who find it easier to gain access to third-level education. Therefore, a library in a school could be a third space where these networks can develop without judgment. As noted by Archer, Hollingsworth, and Hassel, students in disadvantaged areas sometimes place more value on outer appearance, such as Nike clothing, rather than the connections and skills to attain places in third-level education. It could be that never having been exposed to such connections, a student in a disadvantaged area would not see the value in them. Without any model to go by, most educators in Ireland think of a school library as a repository of books. But research has shown them to be so much more when there is a professional librarian in the space full-time. It is possible that the school library funding model, such as those of Croatia or Canada, could foster a better sense of well-being, inclusion, and equality, which would in turn beget better outcomes overall in students. Danielle Raphael discussed how school libraries in Australia have become a third space, where a teacher librarian can provide more inclusive, supportive environments away from the classroom. Not only that, she found that the provision of clubs and other extracurricular activities allowed students to explore different sides of themselves and be who they want to be within the space. This would suggest the creation of different kinds of social capital that might help students to see themselves as able to access higher education. Haycock reiterates findings that have long been shown that students with access to school libraries have better outcomes, and that especially in areas of poverty, school libraries provide more important resources and technologies that students would otherwise not have access to. Further to that, Haycock found that access to a well-funded, well-stocked, integrated, and heavily used library correlated to higher outcomes. In Ireland, only fee-paying schools in the 30 JCSP libraries have all these qualities. It could be Just a room full of books is not quite enough. An integrated space with a teacher librarian that can provide support not only for students, but for staff as well could be a model for creating higher achieving students and a third space for the school community. Although there is much research about school libraries and their effects on student achievement, many times the role of the librarian is left out. In their 2018 paper, Lance and Catchell studied school librarians and their effect on student achievement, both in poorer areas and affluent areas. Their paper states that skeptics might assume that these benefits are associated mainly with wealthier schools, where well-resourced libraries serve affluent students. However, researchers have been careful to control for school and community socioeconomic factors, and they found that these correlations cannot be explained away by student demographics, school funding levels, teacher-pupil ratios, or teacher qualifications. In fact, they have often found that the benefits associated with good library programs are strongest for the most vulnerable and at-risk learners, including students of color, low-income students, and students with disabilities. In 2023, Wine et al. Found that students who attend schools with a full-time certified librarian score significantly higher on maths and reading tests than do matched students who attend schools without a full-time school librarian. The JCSP Demonstration Library Project also conducted its own research that confirms other studies, though with a much smaller sample size because of the limited number of libraries. What all these studies seem to suggest is that qualified school librarians can have a positive impact on student achievement with the particular skills that they possess. Librarians in a library space can help students with all types of literacy, as well as information evaluation. They could also provide a bridge between different subject areas, creating cross-curricular partnerships within a school. Not only that, but they could also assist teaching staff with professional development, as they are uniquely positioned to find relevant information that staff may not be able to find or access themselves. Throughout this film, it has been demonstrated that school libraries with a school librarian could be in a position to provide students in a disadvantaged area a more inclusive space that could lead to access to third-level education. School libraries with a qualified school librarian might be able to provide a third space where students can be themselves and gain the social capital they need to access different networks outside their localities. Research has also shown that schools with libraries lead to higher achievement. If more students are accessing third-level education in a disadvantaged area, it could then become part of the culture to attend these institutions and not feel like university or college is not for the likes of them. Lastly, studies have suggested that qualified school librarians could benefit not only the students, but staff as well. Students receive special care in regards to their literacy and access to information, and staff can reap the benefit of more professional development within the school itself. All these things seem to point to providing school libraries with a dedicated library program delivered by a qualified school librarian would lead to a more inclusive school environment within disadvantaged areas.